nurses, I'm back with another video. My purpose for this video today is going to be advice for taking science classes over the summer, and also tips on your HESI and my results on my HESI, my results on my science class over the summer. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm first gonna start off with taking a science class over the summer. Really, these tips go with taking any class, but specifically a science course. Science for a nursing major is your backbone. That's your foundation that you're gonna build on to help you through the next 4.5 years. Okay, so first, my reasoning for taking AMP2 over the summer is Prairie View didn't have a lot of sections for anatomy at their school period. So waiting for them to get enough sections would have put me behind. I would have been a semester behind graduating, and I didn't want to get off track, so I decided to take AMP2 over the summer. Do I regret it? I don't regret it. But what I will say is, if you're going to take a science course over the summer, be ready to be dedicated and spend that summer doing nothing but that. I took the 5-week session, and it was 4 days a week. So basically, I'm learning anatomy and physiology 2 in 20 days. Another thing you want to keep in mind is that if you're taking a science course like anatomy and physiology, and you plan to go to Prairie View's nursing school, you're tested over anatomy. So you don't want to just be taking the class just to get the credit. You want to take the class to make sure you understand it, so that when you go to take your HESI, you can apply the information that you know. So my class was Monday through Thursday. We have to take lab and lecture. So basically, I was sitting in class every day for about 4 to 5 hours. I had lab from 1 o'clock to 3:30, 1 o'clock to 3:15, and then lecture 3:30 to 5:45. So yeah, like around 4 to 5 hours, if my math is correct. We did 3 to 4 chapters a week. And every day, maybe the most we spent on a chapter was like 2 days. So basically, almost every other day, you're moving on to a different section. So maybe one day you're learning about the lymphatic system, then the next day you're learning about the cardiovascular, then you're learning about the skeletal system. But the good thing about anatomy is each chapter builds on itself. So what you learn in this chapter is going to tie into the next chapter, and you can basically like link those together. And that's also a good way of learning. Another tip would be, don't try to do it alone. Link up with somebody in your class, start a group meet, start a group chat. Always have people to study with. That way, something that you don't get, maybe they got it, or something they didn't get, maybe you got it. That way you guys can feed off each other and help each other. That's going to be a tip through your whole nursing career. Always work in groups, never work alone. I think that doing summer classes over the summer is doable if you are already an AB student and you're dedicated. Now, the advisors don't advise you to take science classes over the summer because you need to focus. They're your foundation, they're your backbone being a nursing major. So your advisors are gonna try to tell you, no, don't do this. But if you know that you can handle it, just let them know, hey, I got it, it's cool, this is what I wanna do, I just need your approval on this form. So definitely don't let them steer you away from it if you think you can handle it. Now, if you don't think you can handle it, just take your time. Don't rush to get your degree, because you'd rather get your degree and have good grades than barely get your degree and have bad grades. So summer school for science classes is definitely doable. Just know that you have to be dedicated. It's going to take over a lot of your time. I don't know if I said this already, but don't work on the days that you have class. So if you have class Monday through Thursday like I did, be off Monday through Thursday. And on Monday through Thursday, you have to go hard on those books, like study, prepare yourself for the test, so that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday you can work and you don't have to worry about studying. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's a lot of studying. That's what I'm gonna say. It's a lot of studying. I finished with an A in the lab and a B in the lecture. Typically labs tend to be harder than lectures, but for me, I'm a visual learner, so it was easier for me in lab. But lecture, you basically you're learning the structures and what they do. In lab, you're learning what they look like, how they function, It's mainly the structure in lab, and then in the actual lecture, the function. But taking science classes is definitely doable. Like I said, it's all up to you whether you're going to be dedicated, motivated to finish, push through, and get the grade that you need. You can take it over the summer at Prairie View. They have sections, but they fill up fast, and it's more expensive because if you don't stay close to Prairie View, now you have to pay for housing, and if you pay for housing, you have to pay for a meal plan on top of classes and books. So that's all I have to say on taking classes over the summer. Next, I'm going to talk to you about how I prepared for my HESI, my results on my HESI, and my whole experience with the Okay, so the HESI. Let me first say that some people are bad test takers. It gives them bad anxiety, they get anxious, they just are bad test takers. Myself personally, I like taking tests. I don't know, I just like taking tests. So preparing for my HESI, I definitely was a little nervous considering the fact you only get 2 chances to take your HESI. And remember, your HESI is your entrance exam into nursing school. It stands for like Health Educational Study. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but it is your entrance exam into nursing school. You only get 2 times to take it. You have to score a 75 or higher on each section to be considered passed. If you don't pass it after that second time, you have to change your major at Prairie View, and you can no longer be a nursing major. Now, what I will say is some schools don't take the HESI. They take the T's. Some schools don't take the HESI or the T's. You're automatically admitted into nursing school. So it's all up to your nursing school. But at Prairie View, we take the HESI. So the sections are reading, grammar, anatomy, math, and critical thinking. At Prairie View, as of now, they only score the reading, math, grammar, and anatomy. Critical thinking, you just have to take it, get a score on it, but it doesn't count against you. Okay, so I took Anatomy and Physiology 2 in the beginning of the summer. It is recommended that you take Anatomy 1 and Anatomy 2 before taking the HESI. But there are people who haven't taken neither Anatomy 1 or Anatomy 2 and they've taken the HESI, or people who have just taken Anatomy 1 and they've passed the HESI. So it's just recommended that you have all 2 down and done. I wanted all 2 down and done just to ensure that I get the best results on my HESI. So I took Anatomy Physiology 2 in the beginning of the summer, and then my HESI was scheduled July 24th. So that's like a month after I finished my summer classes. So basically what I did was, once I finished my summer classes, I spent that whole month every day studying for my HESI. And my biggest tip to making studying for your HESI easier is pay attention in your science classes. It's gonna help you a lot. That way when you're studying for your HESI, you're not like trying to basically reteach yourself stuff that you should already know while learning new material. Pay attention in chemistry. They give you conversions in chemistry that's needed on your math portion on the HESI. It might ask you how many milligrams are in a gram, or how many grams are in a kilogram, how many liters are in these many milliliters. So paying attention in chemistry definitely helps. Now, paying attention in anatomy is essential to passing your HESI. It's not going to ask you basic questions like, what does the heart do? It's going to ask you like deeper questions that makes you think. So you actually have to know, first of all, okay, where's the heart located? What branches off of the heart? What does the heart do? It goes deep. It goes in depth. Like, they're going to make sure you know your anatomy. One mistake I made was I was a little too confident. Like I said, I like taking tests. So I typically do well on tests. But I would say I went into the HESI too confident. And it's okay to be, it's good to be confident. You want to be firm in what you know, because if you question anything, you'll mess yourself up on the test. But be confident, but at the same time, you need to be a little nervous, you know? Nerves aren't always a bad thing. Okay, enough on that. Let me talk about my actual experience. So remember, they score reading, grammar, anatomy, physiology, and math. There are 30 questions on your anatomy section and 55 questions on the other sections. You do have 4 hours to take the test. So leading up to the test, I studied with a group. Do not study alone. When you study alone, you just have less resources. Studying with other people gives you a chance to get information they have, resources that they are using. So I definitely recommend finding some people who's taking the HESI the same season as you are and study with them. If you know somebody who's taking the HESI the same season as you, just a couple days before you, definitely link up with them and ask them what was on the HESI, how they felt about it, and basically just get tips and pointers from them. That's what I did, and it saved my life, literally. Okay, so you have 4 hours to take the test. You take it in whatever order you want to take it in. I personally started off with reading, because with reading you have to, there's short passages, like 2 paragraphs maybe, but with reading you have to read, and then it's going to ask you about 6 questions for each passage. You have to be able to point out the main idea, the tone, the purpose for writing it, maybe where this article will be written in. That's all it is for reading. Reading isn't too much to worry about, but don't do like I did and be overly confident. And I'm embarrassed by my score. I passed, but I know I could have done a lot better on reading. So that's reading. Next, I took math. Math is 55 questions, like I said. It's a lot of proportions. So it's like solve for x if this number is over this number and x is over this number. And you have to cross multiply and divide. It's a lot of proportions. Definitely know your conversions. It's a conversion chart in the Elsevier book. And Elsevier is the actual person who makes the HESI. So it's a conversion chart in there that gives you all the conversions you'll need to know for the HESI. What else was on math? It was word problems. But other than that, it's like basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And with your fractions, there were a couple of fractions on there too. Know if you're adding or subtracting fractions that you have to have a common denominator. If you're multiplying or dividing, you don't have to have a common denominator. Again, that you'll learn when you're studying for your HESI. I think that's all. Okay, so after I took reading, I took my math, I took my anatomy section. Anatomy is 30 questions. Some people ask, is it mainly A&P1 or is it mainly A&P2? Honestly, it's a mixture of both. And like I said, it goes deeper than just knowing the structure and the function. They want you to be able to apply the structure and the function and know that if this happens, then what happens. It's also like the location on different bones and muscles. What else for anatomy? Honestly, when you're studying anatomy, you want to have more than 1 resource, more than 2 resources, more than 3. I used the Elsevier book, and I also used Pocket Prep, and I also Googled HESI anatomy practice questions. And I have friends who took the HESI before me, and I basically asked them what concepts or what material was on the HESI. And they can tell you, oh, make sure you know your nervous system, make sure you know your lymphatic system, your cardiovascular system. That really helps a lot. But for anatomy, you're definitely going to want to know it from the beginning of the book to the end, and you want to know it like the back of your hand so that you are confident in it. After I took that, I took my grammar portion. Y'all, let me tell y'all about this grammar portion. First of all, I almost cried in the middle of the test because I just knew I failed grammar. Like, I don't know, but obviously what I learned in 1st grade and 4th grade didn't stick. So of course I refreshed my memory, but proper grammar just isn't coming, especially in like, I don't know, going to HBCU, really going anywhere. You're not always exposed to proper grammar. And so they asked a lot of questions like which sentence is grammatically correct. And to me, all the sentences looked correct. I was running them back in my head, like saying them out loud, like, okay, that sounds right, that sounds wrong. But honestly, they all are gonna look correct. So when you're studying for grammar, you wanna know your different parts of speech. Like when should you use there, like THEIR versus THERE. I think I spelled those right. So you want to know the difference between using those words. You want to know the difference between lie and lay. You use lay when you're talking about a direct object, like go and lay that book down. But you use lie when you're talking about a human, like I'm going to go lie on the bed. Grammar, like anatomy, make sure you study it and you know your ins and outs. You're gonna want to know when to use a comma, when to use a semicolon. Know what your independent and dependent clauses are. But basically, I thought I failed that test. Like, I was about to cry in the middle of the test. And when you're taking your HESI, there's this option to submit the answer on that question and pause the test. Your time isn't going to pause, but it'll take you back to the main screen, and you can maybe pick another subject to take, or you can go to the restroom and take a break. I personally was about to take a break and go to the restroom and cry, because I was like, I passed all my other sections and here I am about to fail grammar. Oh yeah, that's another thing. As soon as you finish your section, it tells you your score right then and there that you got on the section. And honestly, that can mess with you, because after I saw my grade on the reading portion, I was very disappointed. Like, I just knew I had an A on reading. I was very disappointed, but I had to keep telling myself, look, at least you passed, brush that off, move on, you have other sections to pass. So yeah, they tell you your score right after you take this section. Okay, back to my grammar story. I was about to go to the restroom and just boo-hoo and cry to God to please answer my prayer, but I was almost done with the grammar section, so I just finished it out. And when I finished it, surprisingly, I got an 80 on it. So I still went to the restroom and cried, but this time it was tears of joy that I actually passed. And then it hit me, I passed all 4 sections. OMG, I passed my HESI. All I have left to take now is critical thinking. So with the critical thinking part, it basically was, they gave you like different scenarios as if you worked in a hospital, and which patient would you see first, or if a patient has these symptoms, what would you do first? And it gives you a score out of 1,000. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So the main tips to remember for the HESI: when you're studying, you want to be serious about it. Take it as if you're actually taking the test, so that once you get in there to the test, you're not like nervous, you're not like shocked. Don't study alone, study with a group. It gives you more resources, you're just more available to more material. Tip number 3, be confident, but also be a little nervous. Don't be overly confident and you bum a section or maybe even the test like I did. And then tip number 4, remember, you only have 2 chances to take the HESI. So that first time, you want to really try your hardest. Don't bank on the fact that you have that second chance, because what if you don't pass it that second time? Now you have to change your major completely. So taking the HESI, take it serious. If you're gonna ask me, I'm gonna say personally, the HESI was hard for me. So I take pride in the grades that I got, and I'm very happy that I passed. I think that's pretty much all I have for this video. Another thing I want to point out is after you take your HESI, you now are looking to applying for nursing school. So nursing school, they admit in the spring and the fall semester. So it's not like, oh, I have to wait till the fall or I have to wait for the spring. You can apply to any semester, whichever semester you have all 60 credits for and you have passed your HESI on. I'm applying for the spring. So deadline to apply for the spring is September 1st. So basically, if you plan to go in the spring, you need to have your application in by fall. If you plan to go in by the fall, you need to have your application in by spring. And for spring, I think the date is maybe March or May 1st. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. But that's all I have for this video. If you want to know how I specifically studied for a certain section, comment down below or DM me on Twitter at PaulaLorene_, I think. And I'll be willing to tell you guys what material I used, how exactly I studied for the test, what I did and what I didn't do. That's all. Good luck, future nurses.